Hello, welcome to the Loading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Somebody doesn't have it muted. I'm guessing it's Travis.
Not me.
Hey, me. I'm wearing headphones anyway. You wouldn't be able to hear it.
Right, and it was me.
Oh, way to go, Jim. Killing us, Smalls.
You want to start over? Holcomb will take it out.
That's right. So, how's everybody doing tonight?
Better and better and better and better.
That's good. Travis?
I'm alive.
That's a good start.
Woohoo! Somebody seems like they got some good news they want to share with us.
Smart aleck. No, I was happy you're alive. Mostly because I hate funerals, not because of you.
It's like the travel to Idaho.
Jesus. Boy, that went south in a hell of a hurry.
I'm thinking the traveling to Idaho would kind of suck.
Yeah, that too.
Phil has great news.
He sold his toy, his taco.
I did not sell my taco. Nice try.
Oh.
No, the audio book for American Insurgent has finally been released. Finally, after 5 months of patience and work. It's finally out.
That is awesome.
Yeah. I've had a lot of people who apparently have like either a mental block or a religious obligation not to read books that have been begging me for it. And
I know one, and it's because he spends most of his time staring out a windshield.
Yeah, and honestly, I mean, I've got friends and fellow podcasters that like, I mean, one of my listeners, he's a farmer. He spends 10 hours a day on the tractor during the growing season.
Yeah.
So he listens to podcasts and audiobooks 10 hours a day. But apparently it's kind of difficult to read while driving a tractor. I don't know how that works because it kind of seems like it's going slow enough. You ought to be able to sneak in a couple of chapters before you veer off course. But I don't know anything about farming.
Right, I can tell.
I freely admit that, though.
I can tell. You got to mind the tractor. You got to mind your attachments. You got to mind your plow. Whatever you're doing, you got to look to the rear of you.
That sounds too much like work.
And the front.
And the front, that's right. You don't want to run over that row of lettuce that you're trying to take and cultivate or fertilize.
I'm not doing anything with lettuce.
Anyway. No, it's hard work.
It's not here. It's legal in his state.
There is one shout out if you don't mind if I throw out there, and I just realized who you're talking about, Mikey. Alan Classic, you rascal. Hope you enjoy the show tonight because we're talking about you.
So this is the shot shell version of the 9 inside a 40 case. 20 inside a 12. It comes apart a lot easier though.
Oh, I'll bet.
So anyway, I sent somebody a message and let them know it was Tuesday.
Oh, he just showed up too.
Yep.
No, you gotta give Jason credit. He comes flying home from work to make it on time. It's only 5 p.m. his time.
Every single week.
Well, he missed last week.
Yeah.
I forgot it was Tuesday last week. I just flat out forgot.
Oh, you slacker.
Now, see, I at least had a good alibi because it was my daughter's birthday that day. So I had to miss the show to take my little girl out to dinner.
Phil, she's going to have a buttload of birthdays. That's all I'm saying.
Really, Trumbo. Can somebody call his wife and get her on the podcast real quick so we can ask her opinion?
I talk to her the same way I talk to you guys. It doesn't change.
Spousal abuse is a thing, though.
I know, and I'm getting a little tired of it too.
I was about to say, man, I mean, I don't know if your head's normally that lumpy or if that's the swelling from all the beatings you're taking, but like you
That's
might
right.
want to lay off the wife a little bit.
Oh,
That is
Supposed to be a
why
G-rated
he has
show.
no hair, because she's beating it out of him with a frying pan.
Look, my wife is Sicilian and Scottish. Okay, I get my fair share of them too. I am very familiar with women and their tempers.
Yeah, she
I
just
just-
doesn't leave marks though.
Oh no, mine's very good about not leaving marks. She's been professionally trained from birth. That's I'm so glad she's not home tonight to hear this.
Hey, Mark, I need you to cut that audio out and send it to me. I need to send it to somebody.
Why? It's going to be on YouTube anyway.
Yeah, that's true. But it's easier if you just, Facebook message it.
I'm going to send Gillian a friend request.
Good luck with that.
Okay, guys, let's just cut to the chase. There's absolutely nothing that I have or ever will say that you can tell her I said or ever will say that will surprise her at this point.
Yeah, that actually is correct. I can verify that.
Yeah, 14 years. I'm pretty sure I've jaded her a little bit.
All right, gang.
Is this the Reloading podcast or the Spouse podcast?
Well, up until now, I think it was a spouse podcast. So let's do what they call in radio a reset. Hello, welcome to the Reloading Podcast here on the Firearms Radio Network. Tonight, I have no idea what we're talking about because I didn't look at the show notes. No, I'm just kidding. I do know, but I'm not going to tell you. You got to wait to find out. That's called a tease. And that tease was sponsored by Firearms Radio Network, who gives us a place to hang out every week. And the bandwidth for this program is sponsored by Patriot Patch Company, patriotpatch.co. Check them out. They make all sorts of great patches. Here's a couple of examples. This was a patch of the month. That's an awesome patch. Good old-fashioned Cody. And one of my favorites of all time, American Tradition. So, just a couple of the fine examples of the patches that they turn out. And they also have various other things, including places to put your patches. Take a look. Enjoy. I want to thank everybody who's joined us in the chat tonight. Thanks for joining. Feel free to ask questions, smart off, whatever. So, enjoy the show. And thanks to everybody who, all the co-hosts who are managed to put their lives aside for a minute and join me here. Because frankly, if you all had to just sit here and listen to me, it'd be pretty crappy.
And boring.
It might not be boring. I juggle chainsaws or something.
No, I meant boring and tough from your side and their side.
Juggling chainsaws?
Remember, we've both done shows alone.
Yes, we have.
you're boring, Michael.
I still have-
Boring.
I still have nightmares. I'm just kidding. So,
Hey, Phil,
Yep.
so
while you're typing, mute your microphone.
Damn, that's a good mic. Sorry, guys.
that's what she said about me. And moving right along. Phil, what's your good news?
The good news is the audiobook version of my my book, American Insurgent, has finally been released. Finally, after like 5 months of work and tears and incredible patience on my behalf and a lot of work on behalf of my narrator. It's finally done.
I should probably put that in the show notes then, huh?
Do you mind publishing an excerpt from the book, Phil? Maybe a paragraph or two? Not tonight. I realize. Just a little audio clip is what I'm asking for.
I don't at all. Mike, check with me after the show, and I mean, I actually included the first chapter at the end of the podcast that is releasing on my podcast this week. So I can either send y'all a link to that, or I can send you the audio. You can link it in here. It's up to y'all.
I think the link would be fine.
Yep.
I just mostly curious as to listen to see how well the guy does. That's all.
He did a phenomenal job, and I'm sure more than a few people are going to be shocked at who he is, because like I told y'all, and like I've kind of kept under my hat otherwise, he's a sitting state representative who agreed to narrate this book, which kind of blew me out of the water. And it's interesting to like the conversation he and I've had, because he's just about as hardcore libertarian as I am. So we agree on a lot of things, which was all his interest behind the book.
2A all the way. Well, you're to be congratulated, Phil. I know it's been a lot of hard work on your part. I've never written a book, but I've done some writing, done quite a bit of writing. I've never written a book, but it's like Jiminy Crickets. And then to take and actually have a narrator be able to do the voices. I've listened to all the Harry Potter books. I realize it's unrelated, but Jim, oh, what the hell? God. Jim Dale. He did all the voices for Harry Potter, all the characters, and he even did children, and he did witches and all kinds of crazy stuff. I can only imagine the modifications that man has to go through his voice to do these voices.
Yeah, and the thing of it is that my narrator didn't do like real serious major vocal changes from one character to another, but like little things like the accent he uses, because one of the characters is from a very different part of the country than the rest of the characters. And you can hear that when you listen to them. There's that little hint of that accent that's different from all the others. And just differences in like the speech patterns, differences in the tempo, lots of little things like it. It's one of those like unquantifiable little additions. You know what I'm saying? Like it's hard to put your finger on it, but you can definitely hear the difference in that back and forth, which is really tricky with a lot of dialogue. Because with dialogue, it's two people talking back and forth at each other. And if that's going in the exact same voice, it gets lost. But yeah, all in all, I'm ecstatic with the job he did. And I'll send you all a link to I'll get y'all the audio one way or the other, so that y'all can forward it along to everybody else.
Sounds good.
So who's next?
Don't everybody jump in at once.
Sorry about that. I had to
you, Mike.
My house phone was ringing.
Yeah, who has a landline anymore? Apparently, Jim.
Yeah, I think
I had one. I have one, but I don't answer it because it's only sales calls. And there was one there.
Yeah.
nice.
So, Mike, what did you do?
I Sorry, there's a whole crap ton of sirens going by. I did some shot shell reloading.
You got the 366 up and going?
Yep. So, that was about it.
What is the 366?
That would be a well, the one I have, it was a Pacific, but currently they are Hornady progressive shot shell reloaders.
Okay.
And hat racks.
Cute. So in other words, it doesn't get used very much because it's that fast, and it'll run you out of components, right?
I mean, it's like any progressive. You have to pay attention to what you're doing. So
You got to keep them fed.
that's right. So no, I just happened to make the hat rack joke because I threw the hat at one of the kids, and that's where it wound up, and I forgot that it was there. So yeah, that's about all me. I did have a couple listeners send me sets of dice. So now I have 7.62 by 39 dice and 35 Remington dice.
It was very generous of them.
Yes, they were. So I thank them very much.
How do we get on that list? I want stuff.
You're always giving stuff away, Travis.
Yeah, I'm giving stuff. I'm not getting stuff.
You're a mooch.
Which I still gotta send you something.
So it was awesome. So I was grateful, and I didn't ask about sending to or announcing their names on air, so I won't yet. But if they approve, then I'll put their names in the show notes. So, but yeah, so looking forward to both of those. The 35 for loading, and then the 7.62 by 39 is actually going to be what I'm going to start out with the Sabot testing later this summer. So, see what sorts of fun I can have. One of my main goals is, can I get accurate groups with a Sabot out of an SKS? So that's going to be my challenge. One of many. And of course, it's, just like everything else, let's see how fast we can push it. So.
Well, you're not going to see a lot of accuracy. The AK family, the SKS family, they were never made for accuracy. They were made more for reliability.
Mm-hmm.
Just as long as you keep that in mind. So don't look for that quarter MOA group at 200 yards.
No, that's going to be actually hand loading, where I get serious and see what you can get.
Right.
But not with Sabots. So. No.
I was going to say, we all three tripped over each other just now. Damn.
Go ahead, Phil.
I was just going to say, as far as 7.62 by 39, I would challenge that it can't be a reliable round, just not from the Kalashnikov platform typically, because they're just not machined that way. But like, there are a lot of CZs and a lot of European rifles, Chairman and 7.62 by 39, and with hand-loaded ammo, they can be every bit as accurate as any other short action cartridge.
Mm-hmm.
The real trick is, at least in this country, 310 diameter bullets are like hen's teeth, and not all barrels really like 308 caliber bullets when they're chambered for 7.62 by 39.
Right.
So it's one of those things where, like, if you have the right bullet and it's actually a bullet meant for some kind of reasonable accuracy, and you're doing your due diligence with the powder loading, there's no reason it shouldn't be as accurate a cartridge as 308 Winchester, for example. But the big problem is, in this country, the bullets you find are bulk for plinking, so you're never going to get peak accuracy out of them. And if you're shooting them in a platform that was like a 3 to 4 MOA rifle to begin with, you're pushing a rope for tight groups.
Right. I've seen some people. Mine's a Norinco, so that kind of helps a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's not a Milsurp per se. A Norinco is to a point, but not like a Tula or some of the Yugos and stuff like that. So,
well, in Kalashnikov world, a Norinco is absolutely considered one to be the better AKs out there.
Mm-hmm.
Like Norincos, max to a slightly lesser degree, Saigas, Arsenals. There's a handful of them out there that are considered to be like the cream of the crop.
Mm-hmm.
But when you compare them to like a Wasser or a Yugo, you're talking about more the second tier where they weren't made to quite the same level of care.
Right.
But a Norinco is a great rifle.
Mm-hmm.
It's just, it was never built to be a tack driver.
No, none of the SKSs or the AKs were. So, but I've seen people with SKSs out there getting sub 2 MOA.
Mm-hmm.
If I could get 1.5 MOA at 100 yards, when I get to hand loading, that would be amazing. So, I mean, it's never designed to be. It never was designed to be a tack driver. It was designed to be a military rifle, and unlike its counterpart, the AR, they were just built for minute of man, and they weren't very accurate to begin with. Whereas if you take a similar M16, say you take a Vietnam era AK and you take a Vietnam era M16, the M16 will shoot them away.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas it won't.
Yeah. The big difference is that if you take an AK and an AR from that vintage and you run them both hard and hot, the AR groups will open up dramatically, and the AK really kind of doesn't. Because it started at 3 or 4 MOA. I mean, it's not going to get dramatically worse than that. But I mean, I have this debate with people that are like really anti-AK. And the thing I explained to them is, I'm like, you have to bear in mind that the AK was built to fulfill multiple roles within the Soviet system. It was built to be a mainstay battle rifle of sorts. It was built to replace the PPSH submachine gun. It was built to replace the SKS. So it was meant to be a bit of a spray and pray and a carbine all in the same weapon system. Whereas the AR was really meant to be more like an M14 replacement in a smaller caliber, which was like long-range rifle primarily, full auto capable, but not really a full auto weapon. The two guns were built down totally different lines of development and thought, totally different tactics.
Yep.
But that said, the AK, the rifle and the ammo is about a 4 MOA weapon. Now, if you figure half of that is the horrible ammunition most people shoot through it,
oh yeah,
you should be able to get it down to 2 MOA with good hand loads.
Yep. So I'm just kind of curious with Sabots, because that's the one thing that Matt's not doing, is he's not testing for accuracy. He's just going for pure speed. And with a SKS and a 7.62x39, pure speed's not an option. I mean, I can push it as fast as I possibly can, but if I had a bolt gun, I could push it faster for multiple reasons. First and foremost, all of the gas is going to be going towards propelling the bullet versus the SKS, where the gas is used for cycling the action. So you lose a little bit there. Plus, when you're trying to push it, it doesn't lock up as well, and so you're losing more there versus a bolt gun. And also the bolts, I'm pretty sure it'd be kind of hard to blow an SKS up. I don't ever want to find out. But a bolt gun would handle more pressure too, just by the nature of the action. So.
Yeah. Well, the other thing worth pointing out is that, I read a pretty involved paper on the 7.62x39 cartridge and attempts to modernize it. And the one thing that was really pounded home was the fact that the cartridge itself, the cartridge design is somewhat of a limiting factor, because you have fairly limited powder volume for as heavy a bullet as it tends to throw. And as a result of that, you wind up stuck using faster powders to get adequate case fill and adequate pressure to run the firearm, which is in effect limiting the velocity of the round. In other words, like if there's no more room in this cartridge to put more powder to get more velocity, and at least with the bullet technology of the time, they couldn't really make the bullet a lot lighter because it was a 30 cal bullet and it had to fill X amount of space. So it's one of those situations where even if they put a lighter bullet in it, you're still fighting that limited powder capacity. And if you put a heavier bullet in it, then you're taking even more powder capacity away. The problem with the 7.62x39, as far as trying to drive it really fast, is that it's just a really small cartridge. It's like Supersonic 300 Blackout. Your case is only this big. You're never going to get 308 Winchester speeds at it, no matter what you do with it.
Nope.
I mean, it doesn't matter if you make the trunnion this friggin' big. You're never going to drive it that fast. You'll blow the bottom of the case off first.
The only way you'll get that kind of velocity is Mike's way, with a sabot.
Yep. With a sabot, or maybe with like maybe a pure copper bullet that has about a 25-30% weight advantage over, jacketed lead for the same overall bullet dimensions. But no matter what, I mean, that's going to be the only way to do it. But with the bullet technology of the 1950s, there was your limiting factor, was powder capacity. Although with a sabot, you cheat a lot of that because the sabot doesn't have to go that deep into the case.
Or you could use these.
Oh, that's cheating.
For those who don't watch the video, as I was cleaning up my desk, I found the information from Interceptor Ammo, who is the company that actually makes the ARX line for Ruger.
Yeah.
And the ARX is their defense ammo, and it is a polymer composite. So I was showing him the 223 REMs that are 35 grains, and then they've got the 300 blackouts, which are 88 grains. Oh my God, they make a 90 grain 311 diameter.
There goes Mikey's allowance.
Game, set, match.
Should we call your wife to schedule an intervention?
No. She doesn't need to know squat.
I see more spousal abuse in someone's future. The kids were supposed to go to college.
Pay their own damn way.
Trade school, babe. It's for their own good.
That's right. Well, actually, by the time they graduate, they will be officially firefighters with Sun Prairie Volunteer Fire Department. So when they graduate 3 weeks from Friday, 3 weeks, got to count that right. They will actually be officially full members of the Sun Prairie Volunteer Fire Department. So,
don't congrats for me. That's a hell of an accomplishment for two people their age.
That I will. So I'm just kind of reading some of the comments in the chat, and they're talking about SKSs. David said he's got a Norinco, and he says he can't shoot brass cases through it because the action puts such a crease across the shoulder that you can easily pull a bullet with your foot around the action chamber. That's kind of one of those per rifle things. I've heard of pretty much every variant doing it, but I've also heard and seen personally them not doing it because I haven't had that problem with mine. So
it's kind of a function of ammo and the gas port size on the AKs, because I mean most AKs out there they vary from slightly overgassed to extremely overgassed.
Yeah.
It's just a function of the platform and the way everything was spec'd. It was built to be overgassed because overgassed is more reliable.
Mm-hmm.
That and the fact that, I mean, let's call it what it is. Neither the U.S. nor the Russian military care much about salvaging brass to reload.
No.
So they don't. If it smashes the brass down to a pancake, they don't care.
Yeah.
Overgassed is more reliable.
Yep.
That being said, there are actually adjust-in piston systems on the market now for the AK that can dial that down some.
Now, I've heard rumors that the gas system on the SKS and the AK are the same. Is that true or is it false?
Nope.
Okay.
Best I'm aware, haven't touched an SKS in a long time. I seem to recall the SKS being a short stroke piston, whereas the AK is a long stroke piston.
Yeah, I don't know. I've never bothered to do anything with that other than shoot it and then run a patch down the barrel.
Well, I know for a fact an AK is a long stroke piston, meaning the piston is firmly attached to the bolt.
Right.
Or the bolt carrier. And I'm about 98% sure that the SKS was short stroke gas piston. So there's nothing about the SKS and AK that are the same other than the cartridge issued.
Right.
Simonov and Kalashnikov did nothing together except compete for firearm contracts.
Yeah.
Well, the one thing I can say about the AK, because obviously I'm out of my league here, but those rifles were built to be the AK and the SKS were built to be accurate enough and effective enough. It's a little bit milder than a 30-30, the cartridge is. But remember, like Mike said, or Phil said, it's minute of human being, minute of man.
Mhm.
That's all it really needs to be. That's why they didn't put a lot of money into the research and development. They don't need to. They don't want to. Like Phil said, military people do not care about brass recycling. They care about weapons functioning properly. They use new ammunition. They don't use remanufactured ammunition. They don't use anything recycled. It comes from a brass mill, comes from powder mill, comes from a primer mill, comes from a bullet mill. It all comes new.
Yep. The only Lake City brass getting reloaded is by us.
Mm-hmm. Well, the Army Marksmanship Unit does some reloading.
I stand corrected.
You knew that as soon as I said AMU, you knew you were wrong. Sorry. They're doing some pretty good reloading too.
Oh, they do some phenomenal reloading. You have to be impressed by. I mean, I understand that those rifles are kind of like hand-picked cream of the crop, but you have to be a little bit impressed by what the Army Marksmanship Unit manages to produce out of a rifle that was not meant to be anywhere near as accurate as those rifles are.
True. Boy, we sure got into a sidebar.
Yeah, we chase the rabbit every now and then.
Uh-huh.
Can we get back to the original part?
Oh, that's kind of part of it. So, but
You're right.
so Jim, what'd you do this week?
I went shooting. Again, brace yourself, Hookem. I hope you don't have a heart attack. I lie. I went shooting again on Sunday. I took a friend shooting. Let me read it. Let me get my notes up here. Oh, now the document's got to refresh. Okay, so he was shooting a Springfield Armory XDM at 40 S&W, and he had a brand new Sig Sauer. He had never shot P220 9mm. I took my Dan Wesson 357, some of those 200 grain sledgehammers I gave Jason a while back, and I kept shooting. We were shooting steel targets, and I kept knocking them out of his sight picture. I'd get cussed for that. I like it. Anyway, so after we got all done, I did take a second clean up the handgun, and it's just as clean as can be. No letting whatsoever. Next weekend, excuse me, I'm pretty sure he's going to bring his Patriot Ordnance Factory AR-10 and his Vortex PS2, and we'll get the rifle sighted in. Pretty sure that's what he wants to do. I'm going to start sending him harassing text messages telling him, buy ammo, buy ammo, buy ammo for that 308. He gave me all of his fired brass, and then yesterday, I didn't go shooting, but I did something just as important. I took another friend, a totally different friend, out to the San Lee Gun Club, him and his wife, and we spent about a half hour, 45 minutes there, and he said, Jim, where do I join? How do I join? I want to join. That's how nice their facility is. They have 2 handgun ranges. They have a skeet range. They have a 250-yard rifle. 250-yard rifle range. I'll be all right as soon as I quit breathing. But anyway, yeah, it's a pretty nice facility, and he wants to join. I'm pretty sure he will, but there's a certain procedure. But anyway, that was it for me for the week so far. How about you, Jason? Did you do anything, you bum?
No.
So that was succinct. Rather verbose, too, in a sarcastic fashion. How about you, Travis? Would you do anything? You could do a one-word answer, too.
Yes.
Oh, good. Let's hear it.
So I got a Stoeger M3K shotgun that I've had for over a year, and I never really did anything with it. So I took it out to
Bring on shotgun.
I know I have a pretty nice Mossberg 930 that's all tuned up, but so I took this out to the garage and got out the old Dremel, and I opened up the load gate here. It's hard to see, I guess, on camera, but She's buttery smooth now. Helps with quad loading. So I think I'm going to take this out for our next competition because I can hold 14 rounds in this. I can hold 12 in my 930. So when I did that, I've got a Vortex Viper on this shotgun, and I thought I had an aim point sitting around. So my thought was I was going to take this off of this. I don't remember whose mount this is, but I have a stupid stripped screw in there and I cannot get it off. So once I'm done on the podcast, I'm going out to the garage and getting the drill out, and I'll drill that screw out so I can try to mount this aim point in place of this Vortex Viper.
Yeah, I'm thinking the Viper probably would be a lot better on a handgun.
Yeah. I have, let's see. I have on my 930, I have a Viper, and it's great.
Yeah.
But this, I don't know, I just want to try putting this aim point on since I haven't used it for a while. It was actually on my daughter's Ruger Charger. She had this is that takedown version of the Ruger Charger.
Uh-huh.
And so my 7-year-old has her own little setup here, and she had an aim point on her little setup there. But I'm gonna switch her. She won't know. I'm gonna switch her. I'll give her the Viper, and I'm gonna take the aim point and put it on my shotgun.
There you go.
So other than that, I've been getting in some more parts and stuff for this 2011 build I'm gonna start. I'm still waiting for my barrel to show up from Briley.com. As soon as that shows up, I can start fitting all that and bugging one of our listeners for some help.
What's a 2011, Travis?
It is a double stack 1911. Okay. Mine's going to be in 9mm.
Wow.
Speaking of guns, Jason, I found one for you this week. Model 89 from Bighorn Armory.
Got a pic? Can you share?
I just put it in the link, but yeah, I'll share it too.
Ooh. Yeah.
Since you're making all that gun money.
Oh man, that's nice. Dang, that's a pretty price tag.
Uh-huh. Did you see it comes in 3 different lengths? 16, 18, and 22.
Ooh.
Oh, look at all those different options.
Yeah, octagonal. That's a pretty penny for that octagonal, but I like octagonal barrels.
Oh, fancy walnut, color case hardened finish, and an octagonal barrel. Oh my.
Boy, we talk about empowerment.
Oh crap. Jason, they charge you $120 to ship it to California.
120 is nothing compared to
the thing. Oh, and if you look at the picture on the top here, gang, look at what's on there. Oh, I wonder if the barrel comes shredded for the can, or if that's an option you can order it.
That's gonna piss some people off.
Nice.
Yeah.
I think Jacob needs to purchase that so he can purchase a suppressor, and I'll drive to Idaho and shoot it.
I agree. Get the kid on that.
Yep.
And that way there's no shipping either, because or where is Bighorn? I think are they? Oh, they're in Cody, Wyoming. So yeah, I do.
Well, he's not far. Wyoming's not far from mine.
Yeah, but he can drive down and pay for it there and then take it back.
Yeah, he could.
That's right.
I think he should.
Does he listen to this podcast, Jason?
I don't think so.
Why am I not surprised?
But I'm going to tell him to.
Yeah, Father's Day's coming up.
That's right.
And I fed him and housed him for 18 years or longer.
And you moved him to Idaho.
Yep.
How many years are you going to remind him that you fed him and clothed him for 18 years?
Oh, I'm thinking probably until I'm in my 90s at least.
There is no
Time limit.
limitations on that.
No statute of limitations?
No.
I don't know. My pops is just taken to shaking his head and be like, I let you both live. Referring to me and my brother.
Oh, that's hilarious. Yep. So, yeah, they're talking about a couple of different things in the chat right now. Paul Nelson's talking about a new rifle he's having built, and then Brewer Bill and Realtor 762 are talking about Mosin bullets.
Question for you guys, particularly you, Phil, because I'm pretty sure you know the answer. What is the Dragunov chambered in? 7.62
by 54 rimmed.
Oh, they're 50. I said 51. I meant 54 rimmed. Okay, thank you.
Yep, 7.62 by 54 rimmed. It's for anybody not familiar, that's fairly comparable to like 30-06 in terms of size, powder volume, and everything else. Think of like a rim 30-06. Although I seem to remember it having a little bit more powder volume than 30-06. Not a ton.
Sounds good.
Hey, Mike, when you start working on reloading for your SKS, do you have boxer brass set aside, or
I do not currently.
Some?
So I'll be looking for brass.
Well, when I send you this box, I'll throw some in for you.
Oh, I thank you. Welcome back, Phil.
Yeah, my camera was not one to turn back on, so I lobotomized it. Now it's behaving.
That's right. Sometimes you just got to slap it around.
Did you turn it off and on again?
That's right.
My entire IT department, 90% of their job, that's what they went to college to ask.
Yep. Yes, I did. It didn't make a difference. See, I always hate calling into tech support for things because I know there's a certain set of questions they're going to ask, and they're going to give me a certain set of instructions, especially with like cell phones, because I've been dealing with them so long. It's like, yeah, so before you ask, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this, I did this. I've tried this. And I rattle off about 10 things, and they go, oh, okay.
I literally,
we're to tech support. Okay.
I called my IT department and started the conversation with, hey, I've restarted my computer like 10 times this morning, and it won't boot up. You know, it won't boot up to the point where I normally enter my password and gain access to the system. So I don't know if the hard drive crashed or what the problem is, but it's like I've restarted 10 times, not fixing anything. And they straight up asked, have you tried to restart the computer, sir? And I didn't say a word. I just sat there and let the silence hang. And then she was like, oh. And I was like, yes, if restarting the computer would have fixed the problem, I would not be here right now.
She's fine, Phil.
I know she is. I can see her in the screen when she walks in, and somebody's walking up behind me. Are you plotting on me? You sure?
Give her a hug, Phil, right now. Please.
Yes. This is my little angel, my 7-year-old Piper. She just turned 7 last Tuesday, which is why I wasn't on the podcast then.
Happy birthday, Piper.
Happy birthday, Piper.
They're all telling you happy birthday.
It's belated. It's belated.
She looks like a mother, thank God.
Yeah, she'd look terrible with a beard.
Jason, be nice. That's a child.
She's my child, though.
I'm just glad my boys don't look like me.
No, they're a hell of a lot better looking than you are.
Right? So. All right, gang. Here's our first question.
You forgot something.
Oh, yeah. I suppose you do want to do that, don't you? I don't know. Should we let him, guys?
Yeah, give him a thrill.
All right. Jim, time for the cartridge corner. Now that's freaking hilarious.
God, I'm muted. What a dumbass.
Oh my!
Oh, I chose a cartridge this week, purely selfish interest. And I said all that shit while I was muted. And these guys are laughing their ass off.
And the
Oh,
best part is I focused the camera on you too, so everybody got to see it.
If
thank
y'all could have kept a straight face for another 5 or 10 minutes, we really could have had some fun with him.
Right?
Well, when y'all started laughing, that was a big clue.
Hey, Phil. One of the guys in the chat's got a question for you. Make sure you check that out.
Go ahead, Phil.
I'm not okay. First of all, if anybody in this family gets a 338 Lapua, I'm getting one first.
Anyway, I chose a cartridge this week out of purely selfish interests. It's a 280 Remington, aka the 7mm Express Remington. But unfortunately, the name 7mm Express Remington is no longer used due to the confusion with 7mm Remington Magnum. The 280 Remington was introduced in 1957. Various sources suggest that Remington engineers were interested in creating a high-powered 7mm cartridge for several years before they reached their long-term goal. The resulting cartridge was based on the 30-06 case, neck down to 7mm. Although the 7mm 06 Wildcat had been in existence for quite some time, the commercial version differed in that the shoulder was set slightly further forwards than its famous 270 Winchester to avoid the danger of the 280 ammunition being accidentally fed into 270 Winchester caliber rifles, and it probably would fit if the shoulders were the same. Or you get McGill Gorilla on the bolt end of it, he's going to wind up drawing down 7mm bullets to 277. That won't work well. Anyway, so initially, the 280 was chambered in the Remington Model 740 semi-automatic rifle. To function smoothly in the autoloader, the factory ammo was loaded to mild pressures. The first factory load featured 150 grain at an advertised velocity of 281 feet per second. But in sporting rifles, true velocities were closer to 2670 and 2740, somewhere in there. In other words, it wasn't quite giving them what they wanted. The already popular 270 Winchester was loaded to higher pressure, giving much higher velocity. Thus, the 280 was poorly received by hunters. Later, the Remington introduced a 165 grain round nose bullet at an advertised 2820 feet per second, but at a true velocity of around 2680 to 2750. And with a poor aerodynamic form, this did nothing to help the poor 280 cartridge. Oh, by the way, this information has been lifted directly from ballistic studies. Mike, I forgot to put the link for this in the show notes. So if you would cover that for me, please. A further blow to the general acceptance of the 280 occurred after the release of the 7mm Remington Magnum in 1962. A cartridge which went on to become one of the most popular cartridges in American history. By the mid-60s, the 280 was available in all Remington's action configurations. However, the cartridge still failed to gain attention. By the mid-70s, the production of the 280 ammunition was almost ceased completely. In 1979, Remington introduced the powder cartridges of the powder charges. I'll start that over, Mark. In 1979, Remington increased the powder charges of 280 factory ammunition and renamed it the 280 cartridge as a 7mm Express Remington in an effort to bring attention to this newly improved performance. During the name change, initial confusion resulted in one production run of barrels having been stamped 7mm-06 on them. Over time, due to the confusion between the 7mm Express Remington and the 7mm Remington Magnum, cartridge finally went back to its original name, the 280 Remington. It was a long time before hunters began to realize or notice that the 280 had both the potential to fire heavy bullets of similar weight to the 30-06. That's a fact. I've noticed I can shoot 165s, 168, 170, 175 bullets out of my 280 Remington AI. Yeah, we'll get to the actually improved stuff. 20 years after its introduction, hunters finally began to realize that the 280 was a strong contender as an all-around medium game cartridge, and for a brief period during the late 80s, demand for the 280 caliber M700 rifles exceeded production. Outside of the U.S., hunters began to notice a growing popularity of the 280 in the States via published literature, and by the early 1990s, hunters from all over the world started to take more interest in the performance of the 280 cartridge. I think I'm going to quit right there. I'm not a real good narrator or reader, but I would like to expound a little bit on what I did personally with the 280 Ackley Improved. It's basically a 280 Remington cartridge, but that's had the Ackley improvement put into it. The shoulder intersection with the neck is exactly the same length as with factory ammunition. However, the shoulder to body diameter has been increased. The diameter has been increased, and the shoulders have been pushed further forward towards the neck a little bit. It's almost like a square shoulder cartridge. No, it's not. It's quite a bit steeper. I think normal shoulder angle is about 15 to 20 degrees. Mine's more like 40 to 45 degrees. That's included angle across both shoulders. What that does, it gives me more room in the boiler room of the cartridge case. It gives me more room for powder, and I personally have pushed 175 grain bullets just about into the very low end of the 7mm Remington Magnum territory insofar as velocity is concerned. Low end Remington Magnum velocity is what I'm saying. And well, of course, too, my rifle has a 28-inch barrel, has a heavy bull barrel on it, a heavy varmint barrel, I should say, not heavy bull. And it also got a Boyd's stock on it, Boyd's laminated stock, and the length of pull on it. Instead of being normal standard 13.5 inches, because I'm such a big human being, I'd had it increase the length of pull to 14.5. And the rifle fits me like a glove. But it's like I say, it's a big gun. And I put that 5x25, 6x26 Citron on it. So I think it's a Citron S3 family. It's a front focal plane. With all that stuff I've got on the rifle, has a muzzle brake too. And now when I take it out again, I'll probably put a can on it. But anyway, with all that weight on there, that thing shoots like a pussycat. Very little recoil. But again, this is because I took the time and spent the money to have the rifle improved. And in closing, the 280 today retains moderate popularity. Factory ammunition users still have a rather limited choice of somewhat lackluster ammunition. However, us handloaders have never had it better. We're shooting 7mm bullets made for long range, like Barnes, the VLD, the Berger VLD bullets. Hey, that's great. And they're designed for 7mm Magnum. But you know what? I can shoot them in my 280 Remington, and they fly just fine. In fact, I bought 2,000 of them. That's how well they fly. But anyway, that's it. Back to the show. Question 1, whenever you're ready, Mike.
All right. It's a fun cartridge. So, and there's lots of variants off the 280. So, all right, guys. Looking at this from a prepping angle, what can be done to make ammo go bang more often than not? I understand making just semi-spec will ensure chambering, but are there other steps one could take in addition to ensuring the dimensions are correct? Furthermore, I understand that general practice for self-defense ammo is premium factory-loaded ammo. Does this deprioritize having self-reloaded ammo in a prepper's inventory? Tying the two thoughts together, can any amount of reliability work to reloaded ammo, even crossing from reloaded to hand loading, overcome one's trust in premium factory self-defense ammo for life or death situations? Love the show. Keep up the good work. All right. So, a couple different questions there. I think we're going to address the second one first. The main reason that most people use factory ammo for self-defense rounds is lawyers.
Mm-hmm.
Because honestly, most of us could make better ammo and more consistent ammo for self-defense than the factory stuff, especially in lieu of the fact that Hornady just released the long-awaited bullet that they've been making their crikey.
Critical duty.
No.
HS.
We talking about rifle or handgun, first of all?
Handgun.
Critical duty, critical defense, XTP.
Sorry.
Those are the three big ones that come to mind.
Oh, crikey. Somebody sent me a link on it. I was talking about it the other day, too. So.
You're talking about a bullet traditionally used only for self-defense in Hornady ammunition, correct?
Yeah. Crikey, I've got. Damn nabbit. Oh. Man, I hate that when I can't think.
Where did I leave off? We still looking for that mystery Hornady bullet? Paul Nelson saying it was federal.
Okay.
You heard me, Mike?
Yeah.
Paul Nelson saying it was federal, and I do remember federal recently they released some variant on the HydroShock. I don't remember the specifics, but that sticks out in my head for some reason.
That's right. It was federal that released the HydroShock bullet.
I don't remember how this one's different from the old HydroShocks, because I mean the HydroShock's been like old hat in the self-defense world for a long time, but they've done something different with it. I just haven't looked enough into it to know what.
I'm looking just quick here.
But while you're looking, do you mind if I jump in on that question?
Yeah, go ahead. Since
I've got really mixed feelings about this because, like, on the one hand, I flatly admit that at least some portion of the reason why that I have enough premium self-defense ammo to load my magazines for every home defense gun in the house. Part of that reasoning is because it's one thing to say that I can make ammo as good or better than Federal, for example, but I can't sit here and test every permutation of bullet and velocity in gel over and over and over to determine what gives me the best terminal ballistics. Federal can do that. Like, there are certain things the big manufacturers can do that are simply difficult, impractical, or impossible for the home-based hand loader to do simply by virtue of economics. But on the other hand, I make no bones about the fact that, like, in a life or death situation, if I had to fall back on any of my hand-loaded ammo, I wouldn't think twice about it.
Well, a lot of it's too, like Mike said, it's lawyer driven. This also comes from the Mossad Ayub line of thinking, about lawyer driven, legal, that what's the matter? The police department ammunition wasn't good enough. You had to go and build your own poison pills. I mean, there's all that psychology. But I've even said myself on this podcast, if rule of law were to disappear tomorrow, I wouldn't even think twice about it. I'd use my cast bullets like a big dog.
And see, even all that being the case, has anybody ever been able to point to a criminal case where hand-loaded ammos come into play? Because see, for a civil case, the standard of evidence is much lower. You don't have to prove beyond a reasonable doubt. You just have to basically prove to a preponderance of evidence. And in that standard, yeah, the hand-loaded ammo could certainly tinge the case slightly. But I've never been able to find a criminal case where hand-loaded ammo had any impact on the verdict. It was either a good shoot or it wasn't. And that's because the standard of evidence is so high, it doesn't matter what came out of the barrel. Only thing that matters is, was it a good shoot? Because if it was a good shoot, you could shoot 20 millimeter at the guy, you were justified.
The justification for that was, why give them the potential?
And I won't argue that, especially with somebody like Mossad Ayub. But it's a fair question. Has it ever happened?
No. To my knowledge, no. But the point is, I wouldn't care to give them the chance. I need to find out. I believe the city of Sanford is carrying, Sanford, North Carolina is carrying Federal Hydroshock. If they are, you could bet your bottom dollar and your ass that's what Jim will be carrying in his handguns. I could also check with the Lee County Sheriff's Department just out of curiosity, because I live so close to Lee County.
And depending on what firearm, what caliber we're talking about, I've got a mixture of HST Hydroshocks, Hornady Critical Defense, Hornady Critical Duty. You're going to find one of those 4 rounds in the firearm of every law enforcement professional in the country. One of those 4 will account for the majority of those rounds.
Well, the other thing is, too, that matters with the choice of ammunition, particularly the brand of ammunition, of course, is economics. I mean, departments are buying their ammunition by tens of cases. If you've got a big department, like in the city of Fayetteville, I would imagine they're buying it just about by the semi-truckload, particularly come training time. So it's a matter of economics. Whoever's providing the ammunition, it all comes down to the lowest bidder. And we all know how military equipment and PD equipment is built and provided and manufactured by the lowest bidder.
A couple of us know that firsthand.
Yeah, I wasn't pointing my finger at you, Phil.
Oh, I know. I was sharing in that one.
Anyway.
So, Mike, did you figure it out?
Yeah, it's Hydroshock. So, Federal.
Yeah, it's good bullets.
Yeah, and they come in 357. Ooh, 35 rem loading.
Yep.
I was thinking 357 Magnum.
129 grain in that 35 rem.
That's a scorcher. Because the 35 rem usually is loaded with a 200 grain bullet. That factory ammo, I mean. I've got some cast 158 grains that I need to run.
Ooh, that could be fun.
Now you got me looking up low data.
Okay, the real question was, question was tying the two thoughts together. Can any amount of reliability work to reloaded ammunition, even crossing from reloading to hand loading, overcome one's trust in premium factory defense factory self-defense ammo for life or death situation. Well, I carry factory ammo. It's because of the Mossad Ayoub, the wife subscribed to what the man says. I mean, Ayoub if he's not retired yet, he soon will be, or he should be anyway. But anyway, if the man is a law enforcement officer in his own right, and he's got a lot of psychology, a lot of law. He basically, when it comes to self-defense situations, he is the expert that they call on to go around the country to talk to juries and judges in court cases. But that's me personally.
Anyway, for no difference in reliability, would I ever prioritize hand-loaded ammo over self-defense ammo in the context I've said before? Like, I have what I consider to be a basic loadout for every home defense gun, that's almost all factory ammo. But all my preps, that's all hand loads. And I have hand loads that I've loaded with a certain amount of care at a certain load that I'm comfortable mass producing that and not having to sit there and check every single round. But then I've got a couple of boxes of stuff that I loaded fairly hot, safely worked up to those loads. I hand weigh every charge. I measure every case. I take a lot more care and time to make sure the ammo is. What is that?
That's Mike, actually.
Oh.
Mike must have loose connection or something.
Yeah, I was just hearing it and I didn't realize it was coming across.
But like I was saying, there is that ammunition. Like, I load a handful of 9mm with Hornady XTPs, and it's loaded screaming hot. But it's within book value. I worked up the load in a safe, in a safe, realistic manner. But when I load up to that powder charge, because it's so close to max, I hand weigh every charge, I check every round. I load it like to the same degree of neurosis that I do my match ammo to make sure everything is perfectly consistent, because I'm loaded right there to the limit. I would put that toe-to-toe with any self-defense ammo out there, but I wouldn't put it above self-defense ammo, if that makes sense. Like, the only benefit for me is the fact that I can load that stuff that I think would work just fine for home defense ammo dramatically cheaper than I can self-defense ammo. But I'd still rather have the factory stuff for at least a couple of magazines.
Well, to answer, I believe his name was Tyler's question, I trust my reloads. Those 200 grain bullets that I'm shooting out at 357, 1100 feet per second, that's going to put a hurt on anybody or anything that I put it in. Yes, yeah. Okay, I would not use that for grizzly bear, but I'm also smart enough to stay away from grizzly bear country with a puny little 357. Would I go after a black bear? Probably. But I'd also want to be in the tree. The black bear shouldn't be able to climb.
What about that first question, as far as like what can be done to make your ammo as reliable as it could be? I mean, I have my own thoughts, but I'm curious what y'all are thinking.
Well, my first thought was going with match grade components, because match grade usually equals better consistency, and better consistency can equate to better reliability.
How do y'all feel about nickel-plated cases? I've always heard that the reason a lot of the manufacturers use them is because the nickel plate is supposed to provide a little bit of extra lubricity. Just to make sure they go ahead.
It's slicker. Mm-hmm. It's not necessarily more lubricant or lubricated. It's just, it feels slicker in your hand, and it does. We know for a fact, dropping a nickel case, you could feel it. It drops in a lot easier, a little easier than a brass case. How about you, Jason? What do you think? You got any ideas to enhance reliability of your reloads?
Practice. Get good at it.
Good one.
You'll know when your ammo is reliable.
Ooh, factory crimp die.
Yep.
Because I discovered after I started using one that apparently they have a sizer ring built into them in addition to the part that crimps. So if you have anything in that case it's a little bit out of whack, running through the factory crimp die will straighten out the small imperfections.
The other thing is, too, that crimp is going to increase pressure somewhat and give you higher velocity.
Yep.
Sometimes higher velocity is a good thing. Sometimes it's not.
Depends on whether or not you work up the load for it. But I'll tell you that there was a perceptible improvement in my 38 special ammunition when I went to using a factory crimp die. First of all, in dramatically more consistent firing for the same powder charge, which I attribute to maybe the crimp holding the bullet in to give me a little bit more complete ignition before the bullets start moving down the barrel. Totally spitballing. But the other thing was I could never get that brass to drop out of the cylinder easily. Like you'd always have, especially in my little J-frame, you'd always have to whack the ejector and then pull 2 or 3 of the cases out. But once I started using a factory crimp die, before you fired, if you point that barrel up at the ceiling, all 5 rounds will drop straight out of the cylinder. They'll drop into the cylinder every bit as easily. And if you pop the ejector, even after they've been fired, they fly right out the back of the cylinder. So, I mean, factory crimp dies I'm sold on them. They make an immediate, noticeable difference in your ammo, in my experience.
There's 3 good ways to take and enhance reliability. Like Jason said, Jason's got the best one. Practice with it. You'll know when your ammunition becomes reliable. Practice. Strange word, that.
What is this you speak of?
Yeah. Something I didn't do for 2 years.
You'll get back in the swing of things.
You bet. When burning them 300, 400 at a time, you damn right I am. It's funny because I haven't forgotten how to shoot. Like I said, I kept shooting my friend's targets right out of his sight picture. And he's using a 9mm, a SIG P220, and he's just popping away 15, 18 rounds at a time. Me and my little 6-gun, pow, 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 banging away. When I could see what target he was, I was on it. Kind of made me feel proud. To be honest with you, the guy did enjoy himself, and so did I. We learned a lot. I made him dry fire for 15, 20 minutes. His shooting improved dramatically. I says, now do that at home, but whatever you do, always triple check to make sure that gun's unloaded.
Mm-hmm.
Otherwise, your wife is not going to be happy, and I know that woman. I wouldn't want to be in his shoes if he suddenly were to produce a 35 caliber bullet in the back wall of his house.
No, but the best advice I can give about dry firing is I clear the firearm in one room. I practice in another room.
Yep.
That way there's literally not a single live round anywhere in the room that I'm practicing in for any cartridge of any caliber, period, in discussion.
You bet.
I clear the guns in the bedroom. I walk into the living room or into the garage to dry fire practice. So there, I'm like, 45, 50 feet away from live ammo.
Well, the other thing is, too, you don't want Piper to see you doing that either,
No, I do not dry fire practice around my daughter. As a matter of fact, we just got through going over the firearm safety rules again the other day, which at her age is don't play with guns without mom and dad around.
Yeah, you bet. Eddie Eagle program all the way.
Well, that's Rabelais family. Before Eddie Eagle was ever heard of, I was getting that speech.
No, that's
back
before
in the
you heard of. It's before you heard of Eddie Eagle. I'm sure Carl heard of Eddie Eagle before you were even thought.
Has Eddie Eagle been around that long?
Yes, sir.
See, I didn't become aware of it until, I don't know, within the last 10 years.
Eddie Eagle's been around since the 70s.
Phil, when your kids want to play with one of your guns, do you get it out and let them play with it? Or do
my daughter hasn't really expressed interest in, like, every now and then she'll want to see one, like, especially if I could just come back to the range and I'm cleaning them. But she hasn't expressed interest in, like, holding or handling yet.
Okay.
If she does, I'll clear one and let her. because my point of view has always been that, either I satisfy that curiosity in a controlled environment, or she will do it when I'm not around.
Exactly.
It's the same way I was raised around firearms, and it worked for me because I always had a healthy respect for them, and the same way I'm trying to raise her. But to me, the big thing is always, if you don't satisfy your child's curiosity, they'll do it for themselves.
Sure.
And on a slight sidebar, I had this conversation with some family friends who are like, they're not they are kind of anti-gun, but they don't have any guns in the house, don't want any guns in the house, this forward and that back again. And I asked him one time, like, you still ought to really have like the gun safety talk with them, or hell, if you don't want to, I will, if you'll let me, because I care about your kids. And they were like, well, we don't have any guns in the house. And I'm like, but you don't think they're ever going to go to somebody's house that has guns? I'm like, your kids come over to my house all the time. Do you understand how many damn guns I have in that house? Like, I know they're all secured and my kids have the safety speech, but if your kids come to my house, they're going to get the speech too, because I care about your kids. It's the analogy I always use, which shocks the hell out of parents, is I don't keep cocaine lying around my house, but I'm going to tell my kid about it one day because I don't want her to stick it up her nose and hurt herself.
Mm-hmm.
I don't have guns in my house. It's not an excuse. It's cop out.
Yep.
Anyway. Interesting. I had the same conversation with my daughter-in-law tonight about my grandchildren. Yeah, they're fine. They're fine.
Mm-hmm. And it's more than just guns. I mean, Jim, you cast your own bullets. You've got lead lying around.
Yes, sir, I do.
Probably part of the safety talk is to tell your grandkids that's lead. Don't stick that in your mouth. I mean, just it sounds ridiculous, but it's the truth. It's like our first responsibility is to protect our kids. You got to protect them from anything that can hurt them.
That's what's wrong with me. I remember putting pieces of lead in my mouth like fishing sinkers. Believe it or not, it's got a sweet taste. What?
Pain.
Yeah, the Romans actually used to put lead in the wine to sweeten it. It has a Swedish taste to it.
I think I finally figured out why so many of them went insane.
Lead plumbing. That was
exactly.
All of the water was run through lead pipe. Lead pipes.
That's what happened to Angus and Malcolm Young. It's kind of irrelevant, but to this podcast. But that's what happened to Angus and Malcolm Young. Is their home when they were in Scotland? It had lead piping in it, the pressure piping, and it stunted their growth. But it certainly didn't stop them from producing one hell of a lot of pleasant music. Thunderstruck, my favorite song. Every time I hear the Angus start that up, I get a freaking shiver up my spine like you wouldn't believe. Thunderstruck. Come on, Phil.
We're talking about AC/DC, right?
Right. Oh,
I thought their lead singer was Welsh.
No. They grew up and they started growing in Scotland, but they moved to Australia under some kind of a government program or whatever. They weren't exported. They weren't transported, shall we say?
Okay, all caught up. No, yeah. I know who sings Thunderstruck, but you kept saying Scottish, and I'm like, I thought they were from Wales.
No, Scotland. But anyway, so it's like, yeah, the boys, they're pretty spectacular when it comes to rock and roll. I just realized a lot of the folks on the podcast probably didn't realize I'm a rock and roller. I like country and I like rock and roll. And I love Thunderstruck. Talk about irrelevant. And a sidebar. Well, you know what? We do have show notes, a sort of a guideline for what we're doing. So why don't we jump to the next question as soon as my screen refreshes? Okay. This in here is from, I'm not sure who it's from. It's quite a question. Let's go to a small one. We'll jump down to question 3. If Mike wants to run question 2, that's fine. In Reloading Podcast Group on MeWe, a user by the name of Spent Primers posted that he's moving again. New house, new reloading room. He has a fresh 9.5 foot by 9.5 by 12 foot air conditioned canvas room. Okay, that's what he's calling the room. He wants to know if he should yank the carpet. He reloads rifle, pistol, and shot shell, but he's clean and careful. What do y'all think?
Yes.
Take the carpeting up. I agree. Put down a nice floor. You know, if you want to put down a hardwood floor, you won't be sorry.
Or just
Occasionally you'll grind a primer into that wood if you use a stool or anything like that. But you could use something like linoleum or tile, even ceramic tile. Only thing is, with ceramic tile, it's very hard on the feet.
or do it the easy way. Just strip it down to the bare concrete and then epoxy coat the floor and do what I do. Because I mean, I'm 36. I'm as old as some of y'all gentlemen are. That's not a dig. It's just a fact.
Yeah, that's fine.
But I'm reaching that age where, like, if I'm out in the garage on concrete barefoot for too long, my friggin' feet start to hurt.
Yeah.
So I have a pair of slippers in the winter and just like thong sandals for the summer. Just give me a little bit extra cushioning. So have yourself a set of like slippers or something for the reloading room. Take it down to bare concrete, epoxy coat the floor. Absolutely no carpet, because I don't care how careful you are.
Conversation?
Question number 3.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, we jumped over. If you want to do number 2, we'll do it. But I'm agreeing with Phil. Right now, I hate these shoes that I have on my feet. But
They're cute. They bring out the color in your eyes.
Thank you. But anyway, the point is, I have a hardwood floor on concrete.
Mm-hmm.
And they're Crocs, is what they are. And I hate Crocs. I think they're ugly. But you know what? They're comfortable.
Yeah. But that's just my thought, is no matter how comfortable or careful you are going to spill powder. Sooner or later, it's going to miss the bench and wind up on the carpet. And when it does, it will be a much bigger pain in the butt to clean up than if you can just take a little whisk broom and a dustpan.
You bet. Same with primers, spent primers.
Oh, God.
Yes, exactly. And that's why you wear sandals or flip-flops or something on your feet, is to protect yourself from those spent primers.
Well, and I'm just thinking about trying to find a primer in like carpet, unless it's that super tight bristled short stuff. I mean, it's gone as soon as it hits carpet. It's gone. You might find it with a vacuum cleaner, but I don't know if you really want to.
Why not?
Well, I've picked up primers with the shop vac. It's not a big deal because the primers don't get through the factory filter. But the point is, there is electricity in that sweeper. There is a spark. It is potential. It's not likely.
No, it's not likely, but I still don't like and even with like some of the canister systems, I just don't like the idea of a primer banging around inside of there over and over and over. No. If for no other reason, the fact that it's a piece of metal whipping around inside your vacuum cleaner, it's hard on the equipment.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not, let's face it, most of us people are not going to use a shop vac on carpet. You're going to use a floor vac. Floor vacs don't like metal. So to me, it's just the simple solution is just rip the carpet out. Whatever you want to do with the floor. I like epoxy coating the concrete. I might do it to my garage one day, maybe. But for now, bare concrete floor. It's easy to clean up. Am I being spied upon?
You were.
I see you.
Anyway.
Are you clothed?
Yeah, what we did, Mike, we just skipped over question 3. I'm sure you want to run the question, but I just want something short to way.
Yeah, two is going to take a long time, so I think we'll save that for next week.
Okay.
So, let's see. Brewer Bill said those cheap foam mats from Harbor Freight or Leg Saver, use those on carpet instead of having to do what Phil says, where you rip all the carpet out. Just put those foam mats down. That'll do that.
Yeah, and they're not bad. They're not real bad in price.
If you buy one of the newer style vacuums where it's the canister style, I guess you could honestly like the Dyson type where they've got the separate plastic canister, like a vacuum bag. The way those operate, they don't really generate a lot of static electricity. The motor is isolated from everything else. So as far as that goes, sucking up powder and primers isn't an issue, and as much as it used to be. I actually have one sitting over there that I use out here for sucking up powder and primers. And there's some powder and primer in there and haven't had any issues. So not that there couldn't be issues, but the way the vacuums are designed, they do operate differently than the older styles. So, like I said, the motor's isolated from everything else, and it's usually they don't generate a lot of static electricity.
Well, Phil agreed with me on the statement that it's not likely. It's possible. But there's a slight potential, yes, of an accidental detonation or a fire, but it's not likely.
No. So, Paul Nelson said he uses indoor-outdoor carpet. That would work. Otherwise, like a Berber would be a good use. Definitely not 70 shag. So, but if you've got carpet in your room already and you're concerned, get one of those chair mats for office chairs. Put that down. Or, get a roll-up carpet, and you have, like a 3 foot by 5 foot or a 5 by 7 or something like that. You lay that down. Heck, you could get one of those kids Matchbox mats, that's got the little town and crap on it. You drive all your matchboxes across. Get one of those and lay that out. And then if you spill powder, you can just roll it up and take it outside.
Mike, what I used to do when I was living in Ohio before the podcast was ever even thought about is when I was renting, I would actually take 2 sheets of 4x8 OSB, put it on the floor, screw it down right through their carpeting, and then fasten my sheets of OSB down and build my bench on top of that.
You could do that. Or speaking of sheets, get yourself an old king sheet. Go to like a secondhand thrift store and buy a king sheet, king bed sheet, king size bed sheet. Lay that down. I mean, there's lots of different things you could do without having to tear up your carpeting. Yeah. Is tearing up the carpeting and putting in a different flooring system better? Yes. Is it always an option? No. There's lots of other options you can do too.
Money.
Yep. So.
Well, spent primers, I hope that answers your question. That's our opinion anyway.
All right. Last question for the night. Eddie posted in Reloading Podcast Group. Quick question. If reloading a rifle and your bullets have a cannelure, do you have to crimp? Just curious. I mistakenly bought a box of 100 with a cannelure and was just wondering, by the way, they're 224 bullets. So, short answer, no. Long answer, you don't even have to crimp on the cannelure. If you see your bullet different, the nice thing about the cannelure is it allows you to put a different crimp on it because it allows the brass to actually go in without distorting the bullet. So if you want to put a heavy crimp, then get a bullet with a cannelure, seat it to the cannelure, and away you go. But honestly, when I was testing out 308 loads, I had cannelures, I had not cannelures. I had cannelures that I crimped on an area other than the cannelure. If you're not putting a heavy crimp on it, it didn't make a difference. When you put a heavy crimp on it is when you started noticing it because you were distorting the bullet. So
that's true. That's right. You actually change the shape of the bullet jacket. You also constrict the lead inside, which basically essentially loosens your bullet grip, your jacket's grip on the jacket of the core inside.
Which is huge if you're hunting. If you're target shooting, it's not as big of a deal. Yeah, it'll be a little bit of a flyer. But if you're hunting, now you've got a real problem because the bullet's not going to perform like it's designed. More than likely, it's not going to expand the way it's supposed to, and you're not going to get the wound channel you're looking for. So, it's one of those things that crimping or not crimping on rifle ammo is akin to Glock 1911,
Caliber Wars,
or
9 versus
Bud Light.
Small base dies versus full length.
Yep,
it's minutia.
Small base dies versus full length actually has legitimate because there are certain rifles that you absolutely cannot normal full length resize because the brass will not. You must use a small base die. So that one gets tossed out. But the rest of them, yeah, so kind of all the same thing.
Jason, where do you come down on crimping?
I don't crimp unless I have to.
Why would you have to?
AR.
No.
No, on my AR, I don't crimp. On my 44 mag and my 500 mag, I crimp those.
You bet.
Yep.
I've had jackets start to come off the heel end of my bullets and my 44 Magnum because I didn't have them crimped tight enough.
Mm-hmm. Or the fun when you've got them in the revolver and you fire your first 2 shots and all of a sudden the cylinder won't rotate.
Mm-hmm.
And you got to put something down the board to shove that bullet back in.
And see, me personally, I crimp everything except my match grade 308. It's varying degrees of crimp because, like on my 9mm 45 ACP, it's like just kissing the neck of the case, just the tiniest. Yeah, literally. If I can't measure it with a set of dial calibers, then it's not crimped. And as soon as I see any perceptible difference, I stop. Now, for 38 Special 307 Magnum, I crimp a fair bit harder. Not like it's super necessary until you get into the heavier calibers, but especially with 307, to me, it's added insurance, especially shooting H110 and really stiff loads.
Mm-hmm.
I just want to make sure that I've got the bolt stays put until we get full ignition. But like my 5.56, I crimp that. Not really heavy, just a little kiss on the end. But then again, I'm using Hornady 223 bullets with a cannular. I don't crimp my match grade 308 because that's Sierra Match Kings. They don't have a cannular.
That should tell you something about whether or not crimping in rifle calibers is necessary, because all the match grade bullets I've ever seen simply do not have a cannular. I don't think there's a reloader out there that can honestly say he has a factory bullet manufactured with a cannular that's match grade. Hunting bullets, that's different.
AMAX doesn't have a cannular. Hornady BTHP doesn't. Sierra Match King doesn't. Tip Match King doesn't.
Even your Game Kings don't.
That's right.
Are Game Kings technically a match bullet, though? I mean, I know they're more of a hunting bullet, but I guess that's my point. I mean, yeah, Jim, to your point, I've never seen a match bullet with a cannular.
That's right, and you probably won't, because it's the same thing, because that you're altering the manufacture of the bullet, and you're also loosening the jacket around the lead. Lead is dead. It's like modeling clay. You put your thumb on it, it takes an impression. Copper has springy, but lead doesn't spring at all. It just gives. That's why they actually extrude lead, because it will come out the proper diameter. Everything comes out right. It just doesn't have any, it has nothing but give to it, whereas copper and brass has a tendency to spring back a little bit. And when you put that cannular, drive that cannular wheel into the wall of that bullet, you are loosening that bullet jacket. I'm here to tell you. Unless you re-swage the bullet. Even I've been known to do that.
But yeah, I think we're all probably along the same lines. Necessary to crimp? No. Don't.
Revolver ammo gets it. Heavy loads. Revolver loads.
I guess I meant in the context of the question, 223 bullets.
Okay.
No. There are legitimate reasons why you absolutely would be insane not to crimp. This is not one of them.
Prepping is one. A little. You just said you do some crimping on your own prepping ammo. A light crimp, but it's still a crimp.
Fair point. See, most of the time when I talk about a crimp, at least like what I think of as a crimp is like a fairly moderate crimp, like what you're trying to do when you're crimping into a cannular. But for like my handgun ammo, most of it doesn't have cannulars, and I'm not trying to really put a crimp on. I'm just trying to take the bell out. So I don't know, degrees of gray, shades of gray.
A little sidebar on that. Phil doesn't own a revolver. Yes, he does.
Yeah,
he has a 38, 357. Sorry, my mistake. But Phil doesn't consider a revolver a handgun. Only his semi-flow-through ammo guns are handguns.
No, it's the reason I'm saying the question was specifically about a rifle. So I keep thinking in terms of rifles. Smart Alec. And FYI, I crimped the holy hell out of my revolver ammo.
Good.
Probably heavier than is absolutely necessary. But like I tell everybody, I will never have a bullet jump out of that case heading to, trying to lock up a gun.
That's what I thought until the last time I loaded up a bunch of 44 Magnum under my 250 grain key semi-wad cutters. I thought I had enough crimp. I didn't. And I can crimp. I actually roll the wall of the casing right into that cantilever or crimp.
Which you are only going to do with the factory crimp die. And because in my experience, I've tried it with the little crimp groove in the dies. It doesn't work well.
Well, it worked well enough for me. I have Lyman 44 Magnum resizing die or reloading dies. It works pretty good.
Okay, I tried to do a heavy crimp with an RCBS standard die, not a carbide die. This was a set I got from my father that were like 70s vintage.
Mm-hmm.
Have you ever seen a 38 Special Case accordion?
That's pretty heavy crimp.
Yeah. The center of the case expanded.
It buckled.
And I buckled it mid-case. Had a really awesome crimp, though. But, yeah, I just straight buckled that case.
That was a little excessive, Phil. That was just a little excessive.
I just started loading for 38 Special. I didn't know what I didn't know. I had read some crusty old codger say you have to make sure you crimp your revolver ammo really heavy. So I took him at his word and gave it a whirl.
Sounds good.
And I learned that screwing your seating die down, not the seating plug, but the die, screwing it down 5 full turns is what we call excessive.
Only a little.
Live and learn.
Yeah, you did. All right, Mike.
Yep. So, all right, gang. That was a pretty good show. We covered some good questions. If you have questions you want answered on the show, send us an email, reloadingpodcast@gmail.com. Send us a text or leave us a voicemail, 608-467-0308.
And don't forget, anytime you put a question in the Reloading Podcast groups, you just might find your question on the air.
So, excuse me. All right. Occasionally we pull from the reloading room too, depending on the comments. We do have the links on the show notes for the MeWe group, for the Reloading Podcast page, and the Reloading Podcast group, the Reloading Room on Facebook. Contact information for all of us through Facebook. So MeWe is a lot easier to get a hold of. So as far as messaging us, because it's a lot easier system to use. So as far as that goes, the rest of it's kind of interesting.
On MeWe, there isn't quite as much traffic as there is on Facebook.
That too. All right. So if you're shopping Brownells or Amazon and you want to help out the network, swing over to firearmsradio.tv, hit the affiliate links. It doesn't cost you any extra money, but it helps out the network. Also want to take time to thank all of our Patreons. Really greatly appreciate it. And just really appreciate everybody that tunes in every week, whether that's through the live chat, that's, the various manners, the downloading after, when we post it as the audio, lots of different, options, lots of different ways. So,
Mike, after 5 years, it's hard to believe folks are still listening to us. God almighty. Maybe we'll do something right someday, eh?
Yeah, maybe.
Or if we do, we'll lose our listener base.
Anyway. So, we greatly appreciate everybody that sends us information, sends us questions. Just, appreciate everything that the listeners give us. This is why we do it in the first place. So, just can't thank everybody enough. So, and on that note, keep your brass shiny.
Be an asset, not a liability.
Buy it cheap and stack it deep.
Take someone shooting.
There we go.
Take someone shooting.
All right, folks. Have a great night.